All right, everybody, welcome back. We are going to be doing another deep dive.
Yes.
And today we're looking at boundaries.
Okay.
And we have some really fascinating writing from Cindy Ettienne-Murphy.
Oh, interesting.
From her piece, Know Your Boundaries. And I think she does a really great job of hitting some key concepts, but in kind of a playful way. She's got some really vivid metaphors, and she's very directly talking to the reader, which I appreciate.
Right.
And so I think it'll be interesting as we go through to unpack some of her key takeaways.
Okay.
And just kind of examine why boundaries can sometimes cause a stir for people.
Yeah, and how sometimes they get these really strong reactions.
That's right.
When it seems like they shouldn't be that big of a deal.
Well, that's it. It's like, why is it such a big deal?
Right.
You know? So Ettienne-Murphy starts off, and she uses this analogy of the yes man turning into a fashion statement.
Okay.
And she's talking about how people experience a shift when someone starts to assert their boundaries. What do you think about that analogy?
I think that's really clever because it does capture that sense of surprise that people sometimes have, you know?
Right.
Like, wait a minute, you used to be so agreeable, and now you're like
a different person.
Yeah, and you're kind of making a statement by just setting these boundaries.
Yeah, it's like suddenly you're not blending in, you're standing out.
Yeah, and sometimes it's even perceived as like negative or aggressive when really it's just about taking care of yourself.
Well, and she even compares it to saying pineapple belongs on pizza.
Oh, wow.
Which we all know is going to spark a debate.
That's a bold statement.
Right. You're going to get some strong opinions on that.
For sure.
But I think she does that to illustrate the point.
Yeah.
That setting boundaries can sometimes be met with this kind of...
with a lot of pushback.
Yeah, this pushback and almost this negativity.
Right. And you would think that something as basic as like self-respect and self-care would be met with support, but sometimes it's not.
Right.
Yeah.
And it's interesting to explore why that is.
Yeah. I mean, it makes you wonder, like, what is it about someone else's boundaries that makes some people so uncomfortable?
Well, yeah, because, and I think that's one of the things that we sort of are dancing around is that people think that boundaries are somehow, you know, I'm doing this to you.
Right.
As opposed to I'm doing this for me.
It's not about you. It's about me. Kind of thing.
Yeah, and she talks about how setting boundaries makes her feel like spinach to Popeye.
Oh, I love that.
I know, isn't that a great one?
It's a great analogy.
It really is, and I think it speaks to the feeling of empowerment that boundaries can give you.
Absolutely. You suddenly feel like you can take on the world.
Yeah, you feel strong and healthy and maybe even a little bit sassy.
Right, like you can stand up for yourself.
But why do you think that boundaries lead to this feeling of empowerment?
You know, I think it comes down to the fact that you're taking control of your own life, you know?
Right.
You're saying this is what I'm okay with and this is what I'm not okay with.
Yeah.
And it's really about honoring yourself and your needs.
Yeah. And it's not always easy.
No, it's not.
Because Ettienne-Murphy talks about how you might be misunderstood. You know, people might not like it.
Yeah, you might even lose some friends.
Yeah.
It's tough.
It can be tough.
But I think that's where the real growth happens.
You have to be willing to stand your ground.
You do. And you have to be okay with not pleasing everyone.
And I think that's a really important point because sometimes we get so caught up in trying to make everyone happy that we lose ourselves in the process.
Exactly. And then you end up feeling resentful and burned out.
And I think that's why Ettienne-Murphy uses this metaphor of a garden.
Oh, yeah.
She talks about growing those boundaries as a way to cultivate self-respect.
I love that analogy.
It's like you're creating this space where you can flourish.
Right. It's your own little sanctuary.
Exactly. And I think it's a good reminder that boundaries aren't about pushing people away.
No, they're about protecting yourself.
They're about creating healthy space for yourself and your well-being.
Exactly.
So I think the takeaway here is that setting boundaries can be challenging.
Definitely.
But it's also really empowering.
It is.
And it's essential for self-respect.
Absolutely.
And I think that's something that we can all benefit from.
Yeah.
So if you're listening out there, what's one small boundary that you could set in your own life?
That's a great question.
To start tending to your own garden of self-respect.
Because you don't have to do it all at once. You know, you can start small.
You can plant one seed today.
Yeah, like maybe saying no to something that you don't really want to do.
Right.
Or setting aside some time for yourself.
That's right. And maybe it's just letting people know that you need a little bit of space.
Right.
And remember, it might feel uncomfortable at first.
It probably will.
But the rewards are worth it.
Absolutely.
So go out there and be fiercely boundaried.
Yes.
All right.
That's great.
We'll see you next time.
Okay.